I want to tell you something about happiness that most people spend their entire lives getting completely wrong. Most people believe that happiness is something that happens to them, something that arrives when the right conditions appear, when they get the job, when they find the relationship, when they reach the goal, when life finally cooperates. But the Stoics understood something profoundly different, something that changed everything for those who truly grasped it. Happiness is not something that happens to you. Happiness is something you train yourself to do. Marcus Aurelius did not live an easy life. He faced plagues, wars, betrayal, and the death of his children. And yet he was, by all accounts, a deeply content man. Not because life was kind to him, but because he had trained his mind to find contentment, regardless of what life brought. And that training, that daily practice of choosing happiness from the inside out, is exactly what I am going to share with you today. The first and most important Stoic lesson about happiness is this: stop looking for it outside yourself. Epictetus said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." Most people are in a constant state of negotiation with reality. If only this would change. If only that person would be different. If only my circumstances were better, then I would be happy. But this negotiation never ends, because reality never fully cooperates. And so happiness is always just out of reach, always dependent on something that hasn't happened yet. The Stoic path to happiness begins with a radical acceptance. The world is what it is. People are who they are. Circumstances are what they are. And my happiness cannot be dependent on any of it. True happiness, lasting happiness, the kind that doesn't disappear when life gets hard, lives inside you, and it is available right now, exactly as things are. The second Stoic practice for daily happiness is learning to control where you place your attention. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology has only recently confirmed. What you focus on expands. If you focus on what is wrong, wrong things will seem to multiply. If you focus on what is missing, the feeling of lack will grow. If you focus on what threatens you, fear will become your constant companion. But the reverse is also true. If you train yourself to focus on what is good, goodness will seem to expand. If you focus on what you have, gratitude will grow. If you focus on what is working, possibility will open up. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This is not positive thinking in a shallow sense. This is the deep Stoic understanding that your mind is a garden, and you are the gardener. And whatever you consistently water will grow. Train your attention every day, deliberately, intentionally, toward what is good, and watch how your experience of life transforms. The Stoics had a specific practice for cultivating gratitude that I want to share with you, and it is more powerful than the gratitude practices most people use today. Most people practice gratitude by listing things they are thankful for, and while this is valuable, the Stoics went deeper. Their practice was called negative visualization, and it works like this. Every day, They would spend a few moments genuinely imagining that the things they valued most had been taken away. Their health, their relationships, their work, their ability to think clearly, their freedom, not to create sadness, but to create a sudden and vivid awareness of how valuable these things actually are. Because here is what happens when you truly imagine losing something. You stop taking it for granted. You see it freshly. You feel grateful for it in a way that listing it on paper never quite achieves. Practice this every day. Genuinely imagine the absence of what you value, and then open your eyes to its presence and notice what happens to your experience of this ordinary moment. One of the most liberating and happiness-producing insights in all of Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control. Epictetus taught that everything in life falls into one of two categories: things that are within our control and things that are not. Within our control are our thoughts, our values, our responses, our efforts, our character. Outside our control are other people's opinions and actions, the weather, the economy, our reputation, outcomes, and almost everything else. And here is the insight that changes everything. Most human suffering comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled and neglecting what can be. The person who needs others to approve of them will never be happy because they have made their happiness dependent on something they cannot control. The person who needs outcomes to go a certain way will never be at peace because outcomes are never fully within their power. But the person who focuses entirely on their own thoughts, values, responses, and efforts, and lets everything else be what it is, that person has found the path to genuine daily happiness. Let go of what you cannot control, and you will be free. The Stoics believed that the deepest source of human happiness is not pleasure, not comfort, not success, but living in alignment with your values. They called this virtue, and they believed it was the only true good. When you act against your values, even if nobody knows, even if there are no external consequences, something inside you knows. And that inner disharmony is one of the greatest sources of human unhappiness. But when you act in alignment with your values, when you are honest, when honesty is hard, when you are disciplined, when discipline is uncomfortable, when you are kind, when kindness costs you something, there is a deep satisfaction that no external circumstance can take away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This is not just ethical advice. This is happiness advice. Because the person who lives in alignment with their values carries a peace inside them that the person who doesn't never experiences. Identify your values clearly and commit to living by them every single day. Not because it is always easy, but because it is the only path to the happiness that lasts. The Stoics were deeply present people, not in a passive way, but in an active and intentional way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." And this is wisdom that most people desperately need today, because we live in a world designed to pull us out of the present moment constantly into anxiety about the future or regret about the past. The Stoics understood that the present moment is the only place where life actually happens, the only place where action is possible, the only place where happiness can be experienced, not in the memory of yesterday, not in the anticipation of tomorrow, but here, now, in this breath, in this moment, in this ordinary and extraordinary experience of being alive. Practice returning to the present moment throughout your day. When you notice your mind drifting into worry or regret, gently bring it back, here, now, this, and notice that in the present moment, when you are truly here, there is almost always more peace than you expected. One of the most powerful happiness practices the Stoics teach is this: between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a space, and in that space lies your freedom and your happiness. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps and built a philosophy from that experience, said something that echoes the Stoics perfectly. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond. Someone is rude to you. You can choose to be disturbed, or you can choose to be understanding. Something goes wrong. You can choose to spiral into anxiety, or you can choose to look for the lesson. Life does not cooperate. You can choose bitterness, or you can choose acceptance and adaptation. This practice of consciously choosing your response every day in every situation is one of the most powerful paths to daily happiness that exists, because it returns your power to you, regardless of what the world does. The Stoics noticed something interesting about human desire. It is almost never satisfied, because the moment one desire is fulfilled, another takes its place. And so the person who is always chasing the next thing is never at peace. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." And this is one of the most important happiness lessons available to us. The path to happiness is not acquiring more. It is wanting less, or more precisely, it is learning to be satisfied with what you already have while still working toward what you want. The Stoics were not against ambition or achievement. They were against making your happiness dependent on achievement. Work toward your goals, yes, but be happy now as you work with what you already have. Because if you cannot be happy now with what you have, you will not be happy when you get more. You will just move the goalpost and keep chasing. Simplify your desires, practice satisfaction, and discover that you already have more than enough for happiness right now. I want to leave you with this. Happiness is not a destination. It is a daily practice. It is not something you find. It is something you build. one thought at a time, one response at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. The Stoics did not stumble into happiness. They worked for it. They trained for it. They practiced it with the same seriousness that an athlete trains for competition. And the beautiful thing is that this training is available to you right now, today, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of what has happened to you, regardless of where you are in life. You can begin today by choosing where you place your attention, by practicing genuine gratitude, by letting go of what you cannot control, by living in alignment with your values, by returning to the present moment, by consciously choosing your response to whatever life brings. These are not complicated practices. They are simple, but they require daily commitment. And that commitment over time builds a happiness that nothing outside can take away. Start today, practice tomorrow, and never stop. Because the person who trains their mind to be happy every day becomes something extraordinary. A person who carries peace inside them, regardless of what storms rage outside. That person is who you were always meant to be. Now go and become them.